wanting to watch this for so long. The most disturbing moments ever captured on live TV.
Hundreds of thousands of Shock Channel 4 news viewers watched on television on the 4 o'clock news.
San Diego looked like a war zone. We'll show you the incredible rampage by a hijacked tank.
And then gradually, I thought, well, he's not moving, and, well, there must be something wrong. And my wife said, oh, there can't be anything wrong, because they would have cut it out. And I said, no, it's live.
We are getting reports that your son has been found alive in your basement.
What?
What?
You don't turn on the TV expecting to see something awful, but when it happens, you remember it for the rest of your life. These are the most disturbing moments that aired on TV. We'll begin with the lighter stuff and work our way to the worst of the worst. So my goal this year is to give you guys double the amount of videos without sacrificing quality. To do that, we got to keep growing, and it would mean the world to me if you follow me right now on this app, and I will do my very best to make the best videos I possibly can on Visual Venture, and you are awesome. The Flying Priest. In April 2008, Brazilians saw something insane on TV. A Catholic priest floated into the sky, but it wasn't magic. The priest tied 1,000 helium balloons to a chair. Then he strapped himself in. That's how he got off the ground. TV cameras caught the whole thing. At first, it looked beautiful, but what happened next made it one of the most disturbing things ever shown on live TV.
So, did he manage to come down? Why in the world is he doing this?
So let's start with the biggest question. Why was a priest trying to fly in the first place? The priest's name was Father Adelier Antonio de Carli, and he had a reputation as a troublemaker. But it wasn't because he caused harm. He was considered a troublemaker because he was determined to help people no matter what it took.
I mean, that's a good thing, right? So sometimes you give too much help, the other person will be a little bit annoyed. I don't know. It is what it is.
Carli fought to protect human rights. He argued with city officials. He led protests. He didn't care about danger as long as he was helping someone. Then around 2007, he got another idea to help people. It might have been the riskiest idea he ever had. Hundreds of truck drivers passed through Father Carli's town, and he loved preaching to these truckers. So he started building a roadside chapel meant to provide spiritual assistance to truckers.
He's a nice guy. Well, technically, most priests are nice, except for you know, some individuals. Most people are nice, I think. I hope.
It was a place where truck drivers could park, rest, and hear about God. But building this church would cost a lot of money. So he came up with a plan to get donations. He would break a world record. Father Carli planned to fly for 19 hours using balloons. That would break the record for cluster ballooning.
But how can he come down? Maybe when he wants to come down, he needs to pop a few balloons, then it slowly descends down.
Longest time flying with helium balloons. If it succeeded, he would get attention, and that attention would bring donations. It sounded like a straightforward plan, but things started going wrong well before liftoff. The first problem happened when Father Carli signed up for paragliding lessons. He ended up getting kicked out because he disobeyed his trainer. The school called Father Carli an inexperienced and undisciplined student.
And you want to break the world record?
Getting kicked out messed up his training, but it didn't stop him. That brings us to April 2008, the day of the balloon flight.
He didn't even finish his own lessons, his flying lessons, and now he just immediately, impromptu, without any license for flying, and he just wants to fly.
This is Reverend Adelier Antonio de Carli, just moments before he set out on an ambitious journey to fly 465 miles using small helium-filled party balloons.
It was raining, but he refused to cancel the flight.
Isn't it stubbornness flying in this rain?
Yes.
There will only be good weather during my flight.
Brazilian TV showed the priest floating into the sky, and then everything went wrong. Father Carli wanted to fly toward the city of Dourados, but nature had other plans. Strong winds pushed him in the wrong direction over the open ocean. He rose to 19,000 feet. That's twice as high as he expected. Then he suddenly descended to about 8,200 feet. It was like a roller coaster ride. Father Carli sent a message to his team on the ground.
Later that night, he told his crew by satellite phone that he would not be able to complete the planned flight, and that he was beginning to descend over the ocean.
A few hours later, he sent another message. He told them, I need to contact someone who can teach me how to operate this GPS so I can give the latitude and longitude coordinates, which is the only way that people on the ground can know where I am.
and he just wants to learn it that time, not beforehand, but that time. I mean, like, you could do it on a sunny day. I know that he wants to get donations, but safety first. Hello.
Unfortunately, nobody was able to explain it properly, and he was drifting over nothing but the ocean. That was the last time they heard from him. Rescue teams launched immediately. The Brazilian Navy and Air Force sent helicopters, planes, and boats. His church prayed for a miracle. TV reporters gave updates.
Fire department officials say they're focusing their search on the southern coast of Brazil. Winds apparently had pushed DeCarli about 31 miles off the coast.
2 days after he disappeared, search teams saw a bunch of balloons in the ocean, but there was no sign of Father Carly. People hoped he was floating somewhere waiting to be rescued.
If it's a boat, there's something he could hold on. If it's a balloon, there's nothing he could hold on, bro.
But days passed, then weeks, there was still no sign of him. 3 months later, tugboat workers saw a body in the water. It was off the coast of southeastern Brazil. DNA tests confirmed that it was Father Carly. Father Carly floated into the sky on TV, but passed away alone in the ocean. Some called him brave, others called him reckless. But everyone agreed.
I agree that he's freaking reckless. You could do it on another day. You could learn everything beforehand, fully prepared. You learn your GPS stuff, and then you take flight. I know that he's desperate for donations on the new church, but it became like a trauma to people who was watching this, who's hoping that he's safe, who knew him. Like, bro, so stubborn.
Reckless. But everyone agreed that what he did was for a good cause. There are millions of interviews on TV, but this next one became evidence in a criminal case. The man who played with fire. In 2014, firefighters in Maryland were putting out a house fire, but the flames were out of control. It got so bad that more than 70 firefighters showed up to prevent it from spreading.
And the fire was really fierce. Take a look at the siding of this home, just burnt to a crisp.
Whoa, look at...
It was really fierce. Take a look at the siding of this home. Just
look at this. This thing looks like an edited footage, but no, it's freaking real on live television.
Burnt to a crisp.
One thing was obvious. This fire was no accident. Firefighters believed that someone intentionally started the fire, but they had no clue who did it. It seemed like the case would take weeks to solve, and then something happened. In the middle of the chaos, a man walked up to a news crew and said this.
Me, I set it on fire.
And he wasn't kidding. Just like that, this went from a serious fire to a crazy confession caught on camera. And everyone watching probably had the same question. Why? The man called himself Carlos. He actually lived in that house. Even worse, 3 of his roommates were home at the time of the fire. Thankfully, no one
he hates his roommates?
Was hurt, but he didn't seem ashamed. In fact, he looked proud.
So proud that I commit arson. Yeah, sure, guy.
When reporters asked how he did it, Carlos gave them a full play-by-play.
I just poured gasoline on the floor, set it on fire, and went and buy a drink and came back.
So that's why it looked like this one, because it's gasoline.
Set it on fire and went and buy a drink and came back.
But the real question wasn't how, it was why.
Yeah.
When asked why, Carlos repeatedly claimed he wanted police and the media to know about what he called deplorable living conditions inside this home.
Carlos said he told the police about the awful conditions, but they ignored him. So his next best idea was to burn the whole place down. As crazy as all this sounds, Carlos had one last surprise up his sleeve. After confessing to the reporters, Carlos walked over to the police officers at the scene and he confessed again. Officers arrested him on the spot. He was
What is wrong with him? What? Huh? He wants to make a name for himself. He wants to go in TV. He thinks that it's for a good cause. He's like one of those like, me, I can answer this question when the teacher asks you a question.
Charged with reckless endangerment and arson. Police later said his on-camera confession was a crucial piece of evidence. Nobody could understand why Carlos admitted to his crime on live TV, but his family had an explanation. They said Carlos was struggling with mental issues and alcoholism. It's unclear what happened to Carlos after the arrest, but one thing's certain, the fire caused $400,000 in damage. This next chapter is also about a crime, but this one was broadcast live. The Berlin poker heist. The European Poker Tour is the largest poker tournament in the world. Thousands of gamblers show up to compete, and the winner walks away with life-changing money. In 2010, the grand
There's something like this. Whoa.
prize was $1.36 million. Organizers booked a luxury hotel for the German leg of the event. It was streamed live online and on select TV channels. On March 6th, players showed up for another day of poker, but that day was going to be special for all the wrong reasons. At exactly 2:15 p.m., the tournament descended into chaos.
With the tournament's own TV
Because there's so many money at stake. What?
camera rolling, the action unexpectedly moved off the table when four masked men shouted robbery and stormed the Berlin Hotel ballroom.
The robbers wore masks and carried different types of weapons, including a machete. People screamed and hid under the tables. But the intruders weren't there to rob the players. Their sights were set on one thing: the bags of cash at the registration desk. They snatched the money and made for the exit. Then things got messier. A security guard tried to stop them. It was like a clumsy game of tag. But in the end, all four robbers managed to escape. They made away with about $250,000.
Oh my God.
And they did it in front of the cameras, broadcast around the world. But the live robbery wasn't the dumbest thing they did, because these guys made mistakes at every stage, before, during, and after the robbery. Turns out one of the robbers played in the tournament before the robbery. He signed up so he could get in, scout the building, and study the security.
Oh, bro.
Even with all that prep, it didn't take long for police to identify them. They probably realized the cops were closing in, because less than a week later, one of the robbers turned himself in. And then he snitched on the rest of his gang. It only took 2 weeks for all four to be arrested.
That one snitch. I guess like the guilt caved him in.
In 2011, they were sentenced to between 3 to 6 years in prison, but the money they stole was never found. Up next is a case of desperation and revenge.
They hid the frigging money, and after 3 to 6 years, they're gonna dig it up and use it for themselves. Well, not gonna lie, if it works, smart. Not advisable, but yeah.
Money they stole was never found. Up next is a case of desperation and revenge. The man with nothing to lose. In 1995, Sean Nelson's life was a mess in every sense of the word. He was only 35, but he had been kicked out of the army for disciplinary issues. Then his wife left him. His business collapsed. His house was being foreclosed upon, and he started taking substances.
Whoa, I can see that. There's nothing more he can lose, bro.
Sean was broken and bitter, and when he finally snapped, it became breaking news on TV. On May 17th, 1995, Sean snuck into the National Guard Armory in San Diego, and he went straight to where they kept the tanks. He climbed into an M60A3 tank and got it running. Remember, Sean served
This is the guy who stole the tank.
in the military, so he knew his way around the tank. By the time someone at the armory tried to stop him, it was too late. Sean was already rolling that tank into the city of San Diego. The tank moved through the streets at 30 miles per hour, destroying everything in its path.
There was no ammunition in the tank, but Nelson left a trail of crushed cars, broken utility poles, and gushing fire hydrants.
He knocked out power to over 5,000 people, and at one point he tried to collapse a
Oh, okay. I thought he knocked down 5,000 people, but only power. So is anyone hurt? If there isn't anyone hurt, yeah.
bridge
It's
by
just
ramming
that.
its supports. Police followed in cars and helicopters, but following didn't stop them. TV stations interrupted regular programs to air the chase live.
58 tons of war machine on a rampage in San Diego.
After 25 minutes of chaos, Sean drove the tank into State Route 163, and the tank got stuck. The police saw their chance. Officers climbed into the tank. They used bolt cutters to break through the hatch. Then they ordered Sean to surrender and get out of the tank. He refused, and because they didn't know if he was armed and dangerous, they fired. Sean didn't make it. The next day, that San Diego street looked like a war zone. He flattened at least 40 cars. The damage ran into hundreds of thousands of dollars.
A man who reportedly had emotional and financial problems got a hold of an army tank last evening and took it on a wild ride through.
By some miracle, no one else lost their life. What
That's
happened?
nice, actually. Like, it's not nice for the government. I guess, well, the taxpayers too. That's a lot of repairs needing to be done.
To Sean was a tragedy. He was struggling with mental health. No one else lost their life. What happened to Sean was a tragedy. He was struggling with mental health problems, and in the end, he just couldn't hold on. This next case is about a family whose darkest secret was exposed on live TV. The secret in the basement. Charlie Bothell went missing on June 14th, 2014, and his entire neighborhood started searching for him.
Take a close look at Charlie. Missing.
This is my son, Charlie.
His friends knock on door after door.
Charlie was only 12. Naturally, his parents were panicking. At least that's what it looked like. His father, Charles, called the police, and a nationwide search began. Flyers were posted all over Detroit. Investigators swept through the house. Even cadaver dogs were brought to sniff through the home and the neighborhood, but they found nothing. 11 days passed, and there was still no sign of Charlie. But his dad didn't give up. He went on TV pleading for help. Then, during a live interview on Nancy Grace, the story changed.
The father of the missing boy, Charlie, with me is his father, Charlie Bothell.
Charles was explaining his son's disappearance when Grace interrupted him.
We are getting reports that your son has been found in your basement.
Charles was shocked, or at least he looked shocked. For several seconds, he was speechless. His reaction went viral. Millions of people...
He must be thinking about what to say.
Millions of people didn't get it. How do you miss your own child in your own basement? Charles insisted that there was nothing shady going on.
For anybody to imply that I somehow knew that my son was in the basement, it's absurd and it's wrong.
He even offered to take
What do you mean it's your freaking basement?
a lie detector test on camera. Still, something didn't add up, and the truth was more disturbing than anyone expected. Police found Charlie in the basement, hiding behind a pile of boxes. When they heard a story, they decided to keep him away from his dad and stepmom. Charlie said his stepmom ordered him to go to the basement and not come out no matter what he hears. And right after that, she made a call.
He then says she called his dad and said that she didn't know where Charlie was and couldn't find him.
It sounded like the stepmom faked the whole thing, but Charlie said his dad wasn't innocent either. He gave many examples of how his dad treated him badly. Charles and his wife were immediately arrested. Then came the trial, and the kid testified.
Second time now, a brave young man took the stand to testify against his own father and stepmother.
Convicted, the
So they just wanted it to be a disappearance case where the body isn't found, and they just want to starve the kid to death and just bury him in the basement or something. Be freaking responsible of what you did. It's your child. You made him.
Convicted, the parents faced life in jail. But in 2016, the dad accepted a plea deal. He avoided prison, got probation, and lost custody of his son. The stepmom took a deal too. More importantly, Charlie was safe. He went to live with other relatives. This next TV moment...
Let's hope that the relative treats him well. Like they did something so badly, but just because of a plea deal and they come out unscathed.
Moment gives us a glimpse into the mind of a killer. The suspicious interview. Lauren Giddings was weeks away from becoming a lawyer. Then she disappeared. Local news showed up to cover the mystery, but they accidentally filmed one of the most disturbing moments ever caught on TV. In June 2011, no one could reach Lauren. She wasn't even answering her phone. So her friends went to her apartment in Georgia to check on her. But when they arrived, things only got weirder. Lauren's door was locked. They knocked and knocked, but no one answered. That's when Stephen McDaniel appeared. Stephen was the awkward guy next door. He mostly kept to himself, but now he was suddenly very involved. Stephen stood outside with Lauren's friends, asking questions, looking worried. It felt a little strange, but
so suspicious.
No one thought much of it. Later that day, Lauren was officially reported missing. Police launched a search of the area. That's when Stephen's behavior got even more suspicious. Lauren lived in an apartment complex. All the neighbors agreed to let police search their places. All the neighbors except Stephen. Stephen claimed he was just always protective of his space.
Yeah, but that doesn't excuse you being excluded from the search.
But the search for Lauren didn't last long. A few hours later, police found her. She was in this trash bin right outside the building, lifeless. That meant there was a killer on the loose. Reporters rushed to the scene. They started talking
in
to
the freaking trash bin. It's like those people who dump their pets in the trash bin. What?
Neighbors trying to get the full story. One of those interviewed was Stephen McDaniel, the awkward neighbor, the same guy who refused to let the police search his apartment.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point.
Yeah, just let them search your freaking house.
No one has seen her since Saturday.
He even gave the reporter his own theory.
The only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her.
Based on his comments, Stephen didn't know the cops already found Lauren, so the reporters decided to tell him.
The parking lot area, I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Stephen's face dropped. His reaction looked like shock or maybe even fear.
Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
Soon,
Yes, you need to
would go
sit
viral
down.
online. After what happened to Lauren, police started questioning everyone around her. Since Stephen lived next door, he was brought in right away. But his attitude made it obvious he was hiding something. No matter what detectives asked, Stephen gave short, evasive answers. Sometimes he just stared at the wall. Then the real evidence started coming in. Police got a search warrant for Stephen's apartment. One of the first things they found was a master key to the apartment complex. Turns out Stephen stole that master key, and on the night Lauren disappeared, he used it to sneak into her apartment. Police also found photos of the victim and a hacksaw covered in her DNA. Then Stephen's old roommate came forward.
A hacksaw. A hacksaw.
Of the victim and a hacksaw covered in her DNA. Then Stephen's old roommate came forward. What he told police made Stephen look more guilty. He said that when they lived together, Stephen used to talk about what would be the perfect murder and how to cover it up. Detectives also uncovered a possible motive. When she was alive, Lauren told her friends that Stephen asked her out for a date, but she turned him down because he made her feel uneasy. At this point, the cops had seen enough. Stephen was arrested, but when the news broke, everyone kept going back to the same video.
Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
Suddenly, it wasn't just a news interview. It was a criminal pretending to be innocent on live TV. In August 2011, Stephen McDaniel was officially charged with murder. For years, he refused to confess, but the evidence kept piling up. If he went to trial and lost, he could be sentenced to death. So in 2014, he finally gave in.
He accepted the plea deal this morning. Well, he'll serve life in prison with the opportunity for parole again in 2041.
Stephen is still in prison today, but his TV appearance remains one of the most haunting interviews ever broadcast. This next case wasn't just a moment, it was a hostage situation. Crisis.
It kept getting worse and worse.
At KNBC. In August 1987, viewers tuned into KNBC's afternoon news. They had no idea they were about to witness a crime. A reporter, David Horowitz, was midway through his segment. Suddenly, a strange man stepped out of the shadows.
He had been sitting quietly until David Horowitz was ready to begin broadcasting his consumer segment.
The intruder was 34-year-old Gary.
Why his eyes freaking look like that? It looks like it's falling off. The heck?
Stolman, and he had a weapon. Gary stood right behind David Horowitz.
Because, you know, one of the nicest things about shopping by mail order... Pardon me? What is this?
He handed a note to Horowitz and ordered him to read.
Folks, we have someone on the set who's standing here and would like me to read this copy.
Thousands were watching the broadcast live, and it was obvious this was a real hostage situation.
He has a gun pointing towards him.
Read or face consequences. The note was full of wild conspiracy theories, stuff about the CIA replacing people with clones and aliens living among us. It sounded crazy, but the broadcast continued, and the weapon never moved from Horowitz's back.
I was warned in 1981 by someone with connections at the CIA to stay off the computers, that they didn't trust people on computers.
Behind the scenes, producers were panicking. They decided to cut the feed. After 28 seconds of the live hostage situation, they went to the commercials. But the hostage taker didn't realize the broadcast had been cut. Horowitz kept reading, word for word. It took about 7 minutes to finish.
But when the statement had been read, the gunman placed the gun on the desk and anchorman John Beard grabbed it.
Police rushed in moments later. Gary didn't resist. He let them arrest him without a struggle. That's when they realized it wasn't even a real weapon. It was a toy. But the surprises didn't end there. Everyone wanted to know who the intruder was. And
like, what is wrong with this dude? He just wants him to read his conspiracy theory, but he doesn't even know that it wasn't even live.
Why he did it. Turns out he was mentally ill. After Gary's arrest, his father released a statement.
I do have a sick son. He has been hospitalized a number of times. I am thankful he wasn't.
Because of his condition, the court gave him a plea deal. He was put on 3-year probation and sent to a mental facility. This next TV moment started with laughter and ended in tears. The final show. On April 15th, 1984, 12 million people sat down to watch
Live from Her Majesty's.
Live from Her Majesty's. It was a Sunday night live variety show in the UK. The audience expected jokes, music, and laughter. But that night, the show ended with death. The headliner that night was Tommy Cooper. Tommy was one of the most famous comedians in the UK. Tommy's whole act was built around failure. He acted like a buffoon doing magic tricks that always went wrong.
I shall now produce from the empty cloth 4 live ducks. Oh!
By the 1970s, Tommy was a superstar in the UK, but off stage, his life was far from great. For starters, he smoked constantly. Some reports say he went through 40 cigars a day.
Oh my god, what? That's some horrendous nicotine intake. His lungs gonna be so black.
A day. And that wasn't his only vice. Tommy also drank constantly. He said drinking helped him overcome his stage fright, but that coping mechanism became a full-blown addiction. Tommy was usually intoxicated while performing on stage. One time he did a magic trick involving a guillotine, which was extremely dangerous. But Tommy was tipsy that night, so he forgot to put the safety catch on. If the floor manager hadn't jumped in at the last minute, someone on stage could have been seriously hurt. People around Tommy were concerned about his addictions, but as long as he kept the audience laughing, shows kept booking him.
But at least don't go freaking drunk on your magic shows that involve people's lives. The shows are kind of irresponsible too. What the heck?
Kept booking him.
And he said, I didn't do it. And he said, if I knew who did, I wouldn't tell it.
So on that Sunday night, Tommy walked out for the show Live from Her Majesty's. Tommy did his usual routine. He dropped cards, made jokes, and acted clumsily. The crowd was loving it. Then he moved on to his next bit. He asked his assistant for his cloak. He was going to magically pull stuff out of it. Immediately after the cloak was put on him, he uttered, "Thank you," before collapsing to the ground. At first, everyone laughed. They thought it was part of the act. Then the laughter faded, and Tommy didn't get back up.
And then gradually, I thought, well, he's not moving, and I thought, well, there must be something wrong. And my wife said, oh, there can't be anything wrong because they would have cut it out. And I said, no, it's live.
Backstage, the crew knew something was wrong. The director cut to a commercial break, and Tommy was carried off stage. They took him to the hospital as fast as they could, but it was too late. Doctors confirmed it was a heart attack. Tommy Cooper passed away that night. He was 63. When the news broke, people realized the awful truth. They clapped and laughed at a man while he was passing away. Tommy Cooper's hometown built him a statue in his honor.
That's so traumatizing.
TV networks refused to air the clip of his last moments, but somehow it leaked. In 2009, someone posted the video on YouTube, but it was taken down after public backlash. Ironically, Tommy Cooper built his whole career on making mistakes look funny. So when he needed someone to save his life, everyone thought he was just joking. This next TV moment was supposed to inspire kids, but it left them horrified. The NASA tragedy. Launching a rocket is always dangerous, but in 1986, NASA was so sure everything would go perfectly, they told the whole country to tune in, but they were about to see something devastating. Millions of Americans watched the launch live. Kids were told they were about to see history. NASA launched astronauts into space many times before, but this was different. For the first time ever, they were sending a teacher to space. Her name was Krista. She was a high school teacher from New Hampshire.
Maybe not the recent
I still can't believe that I'm going to actually be going into that shuttle.
She didn't just get lucky, she earned it.
Nearly 12,000 teachers from all across the country had applied to NASA. Only 114 of them, less than 1%, were selected to continue in the competition.
Krista was going to be the first American civilian in space, so NASA turned her launch into a huge national event. She did interviews, posed for cameras, and answered tons of questions. But the big question was whether she felt safe.
Space flight today really seems safe. We had a good example of that when NASA shut down the last one through the computer because one of the backup systems wasn't working.
Everything
and you think that it's safe. Like one of the backup system isn't working, so they shut it down, and you think it's safe.
Everything was ready to go, but the night before launch, the weather suddenly changed. Temperatures around the launch site dropped below freezing. That made some engineers really worried. They warned that the cold could damage parts of the shuttle, specifically the rocket boosters, and if that happened, it would be catastrophic. The engineers advised NASA to delay the launch, but NASA hesitated. There was too much hype. Millions.
Who cares about the hype? Safety first, the next day is fine.
Hype. Millions were preparing to watch it live, and the launch had already been delayed 4 times. First, it was because of a scheduling issue.
Like delaying it the 5th time won't make it seem bad. You already delayed 4 times. And besides, 4 is an unlucky number over here.
Then a dust storm, then bad weather, then a technical problem with the door latch.
I mean, there's already a bad weather. One more time, bad weather.
Again would be embarrassing. Inside NASA, it turned into a debate. Someone even accused the engineers of using inconclusive evidence to try and delay the launch. In the end, they decided to proceed with the launch. They would regret that choice for the rest of their lives.
Yay!
It was January 28, 1986. Launch day. That morning, 7 people boarded the shuttle. 6 astronauts, 1 teacher. The shuttle was called the Challenger.
Let's go down to the Kennedy Space Center and take a look at Challenger sitting on the pad.
At 11:38 a.m., the Challenger lifted off into a clear blue sky.
We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
For the first minute, everything looked perfect. The 73 seconds after takeoff, the shuttle turned into a ball of fire.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that.
They stared at their screens in shock. There were no survivors. That night, the president addressed the country.
Today is a day for mourning and remembering.
The tragedy shook NASA to the core. They grounded every shuttle.
NASA has appointed a committee of top engineers and scientists to investigate the catastrophe.
To prevent this.
And freaking NASA higher-ups don't listen to their top-tier engineers.
Catastrophe.
To prevent this from happening again, NASA redesigned the rocket boosters and created a safety office. 7 people lost their lives while millions watched. That might be the most disturbing moment ever broadcast on TV. These stories are a reminder that life can flip in a second. So take care of yourself, but don't forget to enjoy the moments you're given. After all, what's the point of living if you're not really living? Visual Venture.
Wow. That's kind of deep.